What is up? It's Alex from Double Move Sports back with week 6 running back start sits, and we're getting into the thick of it now. I mean, we got 4 buys this week: the Jets, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Niners. So these leagues are going to get more interesting. These start sit decisions are going to get more interesting, and this is the time of the year where you can really start to either pull away from the pack or catch up a little bit if you had a slow start. So with the injuries that have happened, with bye weeks coming up, now is the time to be paying the most attention, making waiver wire moves, making trades, and putting the right guys into that starting lineup. So we're going to get into every single player from every single matchup today. And before I do jump into it, I have to plug the Discord in the link below. Absolutely free to join. That's where Stef and I are hanging out with our Double Move community, answering any questions you have throughout the week. But let's go ahead and jump into some week 6 action. We'll start it out with the Thursday night game, the Bucs at the Eagles. As expected, Tampa heavy favorites in this one, 7-point road favorite. And at the running back spot for Tampa, I mean, Leonard Fournette is the starter at this point. Fournette is the 1, Rojo is the 2. Fournette, 11 carries and 5 targets a game. He's a start every single week at this point until further notice. We saw him get the touchdown last week. And then Ronald Jones is a sit. He's the clear backup, only 5 carries a game. He can't be trusted right now. He's honestly just a handcuff at this point. And then also for Tampa, we saw Giovanni Bernard get into the end zone last week, but he is a sit in week 6. And for Philly, unfortunately, Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell are both sits. This is a tough matchup. No one's been able to run the ball very well on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So with Sanders only getting 7 carries and 4 targets a game over his last 3, he's a sit right now, and Kenny Gainwell is a sit as well. He's just not seeing consistent volume each and every week. So I'm fading these Eagles running backs in week 6. But let's move on to the London game. It's the Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Miami favored across the pond in London, and it's pretty easy for Jacksonville right now. James Robinson is a start. He's come on strong, and he's been fantastic over the last 3 weeks. He's getting the work. He's getting the touchdowns. You're locking him into lineups. And for the Dolphins, we saw a resurgence from Myles Gaskin. He's had 5 or more targets in 4 of the 5 games this season, outside of that weird week 4 game where he barely played. Gaskin has been kind of like a PPR flex type name. Obviously, we saw the boom in week 5. So in PPR leagues, I do think you can start Myles Gaskin in week 6. The Jacksonville defense doesn't really scare me that much. Will Fuller is still going to be out. Devontae Parker is banged up. I think Gaskin's a lock for 5 or more targets. Should get a little bit of work on the ground as well. So as a floor play, Gaskin is actually a start for me in week 6. Next, we got the Texans at the Colts. Colts heavy favorites at home, and on their side of the ball, Jonathan Taylor is a start. This is a perfect matchup for him behind the Colts offensive line. They should be able to run the ball. They should be able to run the ball well. And anytime you're playing Houston, you expect to get ahead and really rely on that ground game. Obviously didn't work out for New England in week 5, even though they were able to come back and win that game. But JT is an auto start, and Nyheim Hines is a sit for me in this game. I like him more in those pass-heavy game scripts that we expect. And in a 43-point over-under, I don't see that happening for them in week 6. And for Houston, it's simple. You're sitting all 3 running backs: Lindsey, Ingram, David Johnson. Keep him on the bench. But let's go ahead and move on to the Packers at the Bears. Green Bay favored on the road. And for the Packers, Aaron Jones still an every week start. A.J. Dillon's getting interesting, but he's still a sit for me at this point. He's really touchdown or bust in your lineup. So we'll see if he continues to get more and more involved, but I still want to leave him on my bench, especially against a Bears defense that isn't necessarily weak, where I think they're going to give up a ton of rushing yards to this Packers offense. And for the Bears, you start Damian Williams. He saw 16 carries and 3 targets last week, replacing David Montgomery. So he's a start because of that passing game usage as well. And Khalil Herbert is very interesting. If you are absolutely desperate, you roll him out there. But I'm trying to sit him if I can. Not as involved in the passing game as Damian Williams. Did see 18 carries in week 5, which is fantastic. But a lot of that was when they were really trying to run out that clock. So if they're trailing against Green Bay, I don't know how much work Khalil Herbert's going to get. So I want to sit him, but I'm definitely stashing him on my bench right now if I can. Next, we have the Bengals at the Lions. Cincinnati, 3.5-point road favorites in this game. Joe Mixon is a start for me. He got some work in week 5. Surprising to see him out there. I expect him to start getting more and more ramped up as he recovers from that injury, so he is a start. And then for the Detroit Lions, DeAndre Swift, he's an every week start at this point. He adds value to this offense in the passing game. And Jamal Williams is a sit, and he's only had 2 double-digit games this year. Both games are games where he has scored a touchdown, so Jamal Williams really is touchdown or bust. He's getting some work on the ground, getting a little bit of involvement in the passing game, but you got to rely on a touchdown from this guy, and I'm fading that if I have the opportunity to do so. But let's move on to the Rams at the Giants. Rams, heavy favorites in this one. At the time of this recording, it's a 10.5-point spread in favor of the Rams, 47.5-point over-under. Now, as we get more word about the Giants pieces this week, at the time of this recording, it looks like Saquon is almost certainly going to be out. We don't know yet on Daniel Jones, Galladay, Shepard, Slayton, Toney. All these guys are really up in the air. So that line could move a little bit, but regardless, you're starting Darrell Henderson for the LA Rams. He is a start for me. Sony Michel is a sit as the clear backup in LA. And for the Giants, you got Devontae Booker, who's likely to get the start in this game, and he's a sit. I think this Giants offense could be really challenged in this game. And against a tough Rams front, I don't want to trust Devontae Booker in week 6. So he is a sit for me, although I think he will get 10 to 15 touches, maybe even more in this game. I just don't think the efficiency is going to be there, and the touchdown upside is low. But let's keep it rolling. We got the Chiefs at the Washington Football Team. 55.5-point over-under here, so pretty high, one of the highest of the week. Antonio Gibson, auto start in this game. Keep rolling him out there. I know he's gotten off to like a hot, cold start, but he's scoring the touchdowns over the past couple of games. He's getting the workload you want to see. You keep starting Gibson, no questions asked. And then for the Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to miss this game. So you're starting Darrell Williams. I think you really can start him. He's been a little bit interesting early in the year, not to where you're starting him, but he's been involved in this offense now with a more clear role carved out with the absence of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think Darrell Williams can be started as a running back 2 in week 6. But we'll keep it rolling with the Vikings at the Panthers. Panthers 1-point home favorites. And this one's actually very similar for both sides. You have arguably, Derrick Henry's out there, Kamara's out there. Arguably the 2 best running backs in fantasy, certainly 2 of the top 5 backs in Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook, and both in similar situations. Christian McCaffrey is a start if he's active, and behind him, Chuba Hubbard is a start if Christian McCaffrey misses the game. Similar story for the Vikings. If Dalvin Cook is active, roll him out there, no questions asked. But if Cook is out, you start Alexander Mattison in his place. You're not starting the backups if Cook or CMC are active, but I am comfortable with them if those top dogs, those stud star running backs do miss these games. Next, we got the Chargers at the Ravens. Baltimore is favored in this one, although the Chargers have been hot, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this line close a little bit. Austin Eckler, fantastic start to the year. Scoring touchdowns when he doesn't even want to. The defense is pulling him in the end zone, but he's a start in this game. Great involvement through the air. He's looked pretty solid on the ground. The Chargers are just on fire right now. That offensive line is playing great. The defense is playing great. Well, outside of last week against Cleveland, the defense has looked good. So we'll see what they can do against Baltimore. But a 50.5-point over-under, this should be a fairly high-scoring game. And Latavius Murray for Baltimore is a sit. He's just touchdown dependent at this point. He has really carved out that role as the clear number 1 back for Baltimore. At least it looks that way. You got Le'Veon Bell involved. You got Devontae Freeman involved. But in week 4, Latavius had 18 carries. He turned it into 59 yards and a touchdown. That's almost at the upside because he's not involved in the receiving game. He's relying on those rushing yards and those touchdowns. So I'm sitting him if I can. I try to avoid those guys that are touchdown or bust in my lineup week to week.
Wait, Alex, I have to stop the show because I'm dumb hyped over this new sponsorship deal we got. Shout out to our guys over at Manscaped. And look, I was skeptical, but Alex, I've been a very hairy guy for a long time. I was the kid at 13 years old in middle school.
Oh, yeah.
With chest hair showing out of the polo shirt. Like, I was that dude.
I was jealous at the time.
Well, nothing to be jealous over anymore because ever since I got this lawnmower 4.0 from them, it's been clean down there, to say the least.
Manscaped has the Lawnmower 4.0, not the 1, not the 2, not the 3, but the 4.0. Talk about sleepers on our show, and this has to be one of the best sleeper products out there. I was skeptical as well, and it's been an absolute game changer. check out Manscaped. This thing is legit, and you will definitely not be disappointed by this full body trimmer. It's incredible.
So Manscaped was nice enough to give us a 20% off discount code for the Double Move Sports viewers. You can get 20% off and free shipping with code DMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code DMS, unlock your confidence, and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Now back to the show.
Coming down to the wire here, a few more games to get through. We got the Cardinals at the Browns. Cleveland 2.5-point favorites. Surprisingly, in this game, I'm going to have to bet that as I go here. But for Cleveland, it's easy. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are both starts. They've both been absolutely fantastic to start out the year. And for Arizona, Chase Edmonds, disappointing in week 5. I do think you can still start him in week 6. You're really relying on that PPR value that he brings to the table. But I think you continue to start Edmonds even after the down week. He was a little banged up going into that one. And then James Conner is a sit. It's going to be a similar story each and every week for James Conner unless Chase Edmonds is inactive. It's another touchdown or bust player. He's had those couple of 2 touchdown weeks where he was fantastic. The 1 touchdown week, it was okay. But if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's not really getting it done for you in your fantasy football lineup. So James Conner is a sit. Chase Edmonds is a start. And I did just vet this one. At the time of this recording, Cleveland, surprisingly, is a 2.5-point home favorite against the Arizona Cardinals. Will be very interesting to see how that line moves throughout the week. But let's move on to the Raiders at the Broncos. Broncos favored at home in this game. No surprise there with the Raiders' struggles as of late. But for Vegas, Josh Jacobs is a start in this game. Since his return from that injury over these last 2 games, 14 carries and 5 targets per game. So great usage from Josh Jacobs, even in a tough matchup against Denver. Although Najee Harris did just absolutely gash this Denver Broncos defense on the ground. Kenyon Drake for the Raiders is a sit. If we flip to the Broncos side of the ball, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, I'm losing confidence in these guys. They have been starts for me. I'm hoping one or the other has a big game and the other does enough to get it done in your lineup. But at this point, they're both quite disappointing and they're just lacking that upside. So I think their desperation starts in week 6. If you have Alvin Kamara on bye, if you have Cordarrelle Patterson, who you've been relying on, if you have a Mike Davis, you have these guys on bye, you had Saquon, and you need a running back to plug in, sure, Melvin Gordon and Javonte could be fine. Cross your fingers. Hope they get that 10 to 12 carries, a couple of targets, maybe get in the end zone. But I'm trying to avoid these guys if I can right now until one of them clearly emerges in this backfield. So right now, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, all still mark them as a start for this week, but it's more of a desperation start, and I'm definitely losing confidence in those guys. Next, we do have the Cowboys at the Patriots. Dallas favored on the road. For Dallas, Zeke is eating. He's a start in this game. He has been on fire. And Tony Pollard is a deep start. I think he is getting enough work to where he can be started. He's getting work on the ground. He's getting used through the air. And I think Dallas is going to win this game, quite frankly. So if they do get up in this one, we might see Tony Pollard more down the stretch. If we flip over to the Pats, Damian Harris did suffer an injury last week, so we're still kind of waiting to make sure he's going to be active. Early signs are pointing towards him playing in this game. If Damian Harris does play in this game, I am willing to start him. If Damian Harris is out, obviously, I'm not going to play him. So keep an eye on the practice reports throughout the week. Keep an eye on that injury, and we'll see what the deal is with Damian Harris as we get more information. If Harris is out, I am staying away from Ramondre Stevenson and Brandon Bolden. Not interested in those guys if Harris is out. He's the only one I'm willing to play if he's active. A couple more games here. We got Sunday Night Football, Seahawks at the Steelers. Pittsburgh, home favorites in this game. Not a surprise with Russell Wilson out. A kind of nasty 42.5-point over-under with Russell being out for Seattle. And for Pittsburgh, Najee Harris, he's a start. This dude is an absolute stud. Finally saw him have a big game on the ground in week 5. The Seahawks defense doesn't really scare me, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Najee have another big game here in week 6. And then for Seattle, Chris Carson and Alex Collins are both sits for me. If Carson is active, I'm not really comfortable starting him. It's a tough Pittsburgh defense. You don't have Russell Wilson helping this offense move the ball. and get those touchdown opportunities. And Carson's been battling that neck injury. So if he's active, I'm not really feeling comfortable starting him because Alex Collins was getting work even when Carson was available. And Alex Collins is a sit as well if Carson's inactive. He didn't really dazzle you in the Thursday night game against the Rams when he had the start. And I don't want to put him out there. Again, with Geno Smith at quarterback, I just don't know what the touchdown opportunities are going to be for these running backs. And that's where a Chris Carson, or if he's out and Alex Collins, can really provide value, is with a touchdown. So I'm sitting these guys in this game against a good Pittsburgh defense. And that brings us to our last matchup of the week. The Bills at the Titans. Buffalo is favored on the road, 54-point over-under. This one should be fun on Monday night. And Derrick Henry, come on, easy start in this game. He is absolutely on fire. Is he going to have another 2,000-yard season this year? We'll see. That's the biggest question with him right now. And then for the Buffalo Bills, Zach Moss, I'm coming around. I'm willing to start him this week. He's played 4 games this year, at least 12 PPR points in each of those games. So he's either getting into the end zone or he's getting some work through the passing game, enough to have a solid fantasy football performance. So I'm willing to start Moss. RB2, you should have a decent floor there. If he can get into the end zone, he can really give you a little bit of that upside, not as much as other guys on this list. But Moss is someone I'm willing to start. Devin Singletary is a sit. Between these two guys, Moss is really starting to outpace him in efficiency and production, and he is the more likely of the two to get into the end zone. So Singletary is a sit, Moss is a start, and that's going to do it for running back start sits. This week, we're going to have receiver start sits coming out. We're going to have a great podcast this week. Steph and I are going to be back on the pod together, talking about some things going on throughout the league. But if you want to keep the conversation going, join that Discord in the link below. That's where we are hanging out, answering questions 24/7, start sits. We got trade questions. We got a great community in there that's willing to give feedback as well. As always, like and subscribe if you do like the channel. And good luck coming up in week 6. But again, this is Alex from Double Move Sports, and we'll see you next time.